Yeah, but the big question is it a derby?
You're almost better off calling it a derby, aren't you? Maybe Matt is as well, to try and convince players that this is a derby game. There's a way to play football and there's the Stevenage way to play football, and even though we lost, I'm glad that we played the Leyton Orient way of playing football.
At the beginning of the season, people weren't having him at all, and now he seems to be the answer, but I don't think we found the answer up front, so it has to change.
Luton have scored the most goals whilst Nordos has been on the pitch of the 4 strikers that we've got currently in action. None of this pumping the ball up to the centre forward. They're going to eat that for meat and drink, even if it is Nordos up front. There is a world out there where people are calling for Shea over Kearley. It's not for me, Clive. The Town crossed the border into Hertfordshire for a clash with Stevenage on Saturday afternoon. Alongside me to preview the clash at the Lamex Stadium is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, they're second in the table, but let's hope we can build on 2 positive results ourselves.
Yeah, but the big question is it a derby?
Well, we know it's not, and we'll explain exactly why right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're looking ahead to Stevenage versus Luton, Saturday 3 p.m, Lamex Stadium. If you haven't got a ticket in the away end, you're out of luck, I'm afraid. That's been sold out for a long, long time. And no UK TV coverage either, so you'll have to find other ways and means to keep up to date with the game. Although I will tell you everything that happens in an instant reaction as soon as possible after the full-time whistle. Alongside me to look ahead to the game, which isn't a derby, despite what anyone says, is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, not a derby, but a potentially tough game.
I know it's not a derby, but it is closer than them lot down the road.
It is, but it's not a derby.
The yellow shirts, isn't it? But no, it's not a derby. They might think it is, I suppose.
They probably, yeah.
What it is a reminder probably of a little bit how far we've fallen, because if you think, I don't think we ever played them until we got relegated to the non-league, and then they came out on top, went up as champions that season, didn't they? And so they were ahead of Luton for a little bit. That wasn't very palatable to anybody of a Hatter's persuasion. And so that however many years it is now since then, we're back playing them, and they are second in division. Luton supposedly not doing so well. They're obviously, I would say, the favourites on this one. And again, that doesn't sit well with anyone of an orange persuasion either. So it's a very, very tricky one, because you don't want to go there and have them prove their status in the division as it is at the moment. So I think that out of all of these games that we've seen so far, and some of them haven't had this at all, we know the ones are, but this one has to be where you have all the fight first.
I mean, from that point of view, you're almost better off calling it a derby, aren't you? Because you look at what happened in the derbies last season, well, certainly the home ones anyway, and the season before, then we're up for them, aren't we? So maybe from that point of view, maybe Matt is as well, to try and convince players that this is a derby game. Look, you're not going to convince fans. They're just not as meaningful to Luton fans as what that other lot in Hertfordshire are, and that's the way it'll always be. But they're not second in the table by, they're fly-by-nights after 1 or 2 games. They're there after 10 games. They're there on merit. And, we have to, even though we probably do as a fan base think they're beneath us, we do have to acknowledge the fact that they're second in the table, and they're there because they're the second highest scorers in the division in terms of goals per game, and they're the second best defence in terms of goals per game. Now, that combination generally takes you places. Do I think that'll be the case at the end of the season? If you look at the sort of underlying numbers, they're going to regress to their mean at some point. But right now, we're not playing them in the future. We're playing them right now, and they have to be respected.
They do, and I don't think it's necessarily the right mindset to go in and say that we're the bigger team or anything like that. You could say it on history and size of the club, or size of the stadium, even. But right now, they are proving their worth up there, and they are fairly clinical in what they're doing, which you can't say that at the moment for large parts of the game for Luton. So that obviously has to change.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of goals, they're massively. I mean, XG's the buzz statistic of the world, isn't it, these days? And they're massively overperforming. 15 goals from only 10.1 cumulative XG. So they've scored sort of almost a third as many as what they should have done. Sounds like a bad thing. It's not. It's a good thing. You want to overperform it, but generally, the numbers generally sort of come together towards the end of the season and things. Let's hope it comes together on Saturday. Hey, one of the reasons for that is Jamie Reid up front is one of the top scorers in the division. Now, he didn't play last Saturday against Leyton Orient. I don't know if you caught Richie Wellens' description of the game afterwards. I can't remember it word for word, but it's something along the lines of, there's a way to play football and there's the Stevenage way to play football. And even though we lost, I'm glad that we played the Leyton Orient way of playing football. It kind of tells you that he wasn't particularly impressed with Stevenage's tactics.
Well, it probably says what we're going to face from them, really, which is quite direct agricultural football, maybe. But that's working for them, and you've got to, like I say, stand up to that fight. If they want to take it on as a derby, then you've got to almost take it on as a derby. Well, I think, we're not saying it is, and that's because of history, but I think you've got to look at it in terms of it being that derby feel where you've got to go there and fight for everything to start with, just to earn a foothold in the game. And if they don't do that, Luton, then they're not going to get anything out of this. Certainly, with the amount of goals that they've not conceded, the amount of goals they've scored, it seems to me one of those games where the first goal is going to be massively important, and Luton can't afford to let that in.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, there's not an automatic way back into this one, I don't think, because I'm kind of guessing. Again, I've not watched Stevenage, don't really want to watch Stevenage too often, but I'm kind of guessing that one of the reasons why they are so high up and doing so well when they go in front is because they're good at managing the game, as is the phrase these days, isn't it? So, I mean, they had Steve Evans there, didn't they, not so long ago, before he disappeared back to Rotherham, and Alex Ravel, who's currently the manager, took over. If you watch the Steve Evans side, they're pretty uniformed, aren't they? They know, how they're going to play. They're direct. They're not very nice to play against. And that's what we're going to get. I don't know if Reed's fit for Saturday. It'd be a bonus if he isn't, because he, Northern Ireland international. I think he was one of the contenders for Player of the Month for August as well. So he obviously started the season really well. I suppose the plus side is that George Savile will know all about him if he does play. So that will kind of help. But yeah, there aren't many obvious threats in this team. They're another one of those, much like Blackpool. They're not standing out on too much statistically, other than the very strong XG against. I think they're third best in the league at conceding chances. We're the fourth best at the league in lack of chances conceded. So I'm not expecting a high scoring game here, that's for sure.
Yeah, which says to me, probably read aside that they're more than the sum of their parts. They are a team, and they will battle and scrap and fight for one another. And that is what you need to do in this division. I mean, you need to do it in most divisions, obviously, but this is, we found if you're not up for that fight, and we always really, hopefully, we can always look back on the Lincoln one as the lowest ebb of that, where it wasn't shown, and alternatively, like we did in the last podcast, say, well, the last 20 minutes of the game at Blackpool is where Luton showed fight, and you could say that about the Doncaster game as well, in terms of the reaction from the Lincoln game. So it's there, but probably this is going to be the tougher test, because we've played Cardiff, we've played Bradford, and Bradford are a physical side, but they play good football as well. I'm not expecting that off necessarily off Stevenage, and maybe I'm doing them a disservice. I don't know, but I'm expecting them to be, like you say, a really horrible team to play against, but all knowing exactly what they got to do and all prepared to put bodies on the line and fight for everything. So you've got to match that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, let's bring it sort of away from Stevenage now, back to Luton. We can say it as many times as you want that it's not a derby. What it will be is a packed away end, expecting to win. Like you said right at the start of the podcast, the first time we played them in league play was in the conference, and I think we won that day, didn't we, with Barnes Homer scoring, but they ended up winning the war sort of thing by getting automatic promotion whilst we messed up the playoffs against York, thanks Dickie Dosh. And since then, generally we've had the better of the matches. I know we have lost there under Nathan Jones, but generally we have had the better of them. I mean, there was that one down here, wasn't there, where we wiped them out 7 when Jonathan Smith was in the opposition team. I saw him actually at Blackpool on Tuesday night. It's good to catch up with an old player. So we really want to keep that going. I don't think this is necessarily that we're going to steamroll this game or anything like that. I think it's going to be a tight game, just purely because of what it is, where they are, and where it falls in our week as well. Still that trepidation, isn't it? This is the first real or second real 3-game week, isn't it? Last time round, obviously, we had the Wigan midweek game. We've had a problem with third games of 3-game weeks in the past. So that's the first box we can tick, isn't it? That we can do the 3 games weeks, because there's plenty of them on the horizon.
Yeah, and that's been a problem under numerous managers, even for the Nathan Jones teams. That tended to be a problem, but we are on the precipice of being able to change that with this game. 4 points from the first 2 is a fairly decent return, and whether it's 5, 6, or 7 remain. Could be no more. Obviously, we don't want that, but if you can get those extra points on this one, then that kind of is another tick along the progress chart, isn't it? Because we haven't seen that very often, and I think that, albeit we've got kind of like a threadbare squad, considering there are 12 players out. 11 now, isn't it? Because Clark came back. We're expecting Jerry Yates back, so that'll probably be still 10 players out. But there still feels like there's options with this team, as we saw at Blackpool, where the game changers came off the bench for the last 30 minutes and made all the difference. So, and I think there are options again for this one. It's just, I think that there probably needs to be some changes for the start of it.
Yeah, which we'll come on to in a moment. Yeah, you're kind of right with that. Well, let's do the changes now. Actually, we don't know exactly how the squad looks after Tuesday night. Obviously, as I said, this is the second, third game week of the season. Obviously, the third game last time didn't go to plan when we lost 1-0 to Cardiff. Let's hope that we're not getting a repeat of that. By the way, we'll do well to get 6 points out of this week now. It would either be 5 or 7, hopefully. I'm not sure we're getting 2 points on Saturday, but it'd be nice if we could find a way of getting 2 points if we draw, because it'll be better than 1. Usually we go back to front, don't we? But let's go front to back, because I think it's the front area of the pitch which got the most examination on Tuesday night, and the fallout from Tuesday night still continuing, Jimbo. I think the one thing that we should say also to defend the result on Tuesday night is look at the other game. Cardiff lost at home to Burton. Now you look at the 2 teams against us. Cardiff looked fantastic. Burton looked terrible. This league's just bonkers. You've got to take points where you can get them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't really matter how you get them. I know that is something that people focus on about Luton, that the performances aren't good and we don't look like X or Y or Z or whatever it is. Whether you would get that, I don't know. We all strive for the perfect game, the perfect result, but does it ever exist? Don't know. You tell me. Probably somewhere along the lines of your Luton supporting history, you've got a perfect game, but that's normally all about the vibes, isn't it? Whether it actually is or not, I don't know. We're the third division of English football, and that says to you that you're not always going to get a lot of quality, but it's basics, isn't it? And this has been a buzzword for the last 3 or 4 games, hasn't it? There weren't any basics in the Lincoln game. the basics were all there in the Doncaster game. Then the basics weren't there against Blackpool for a bit, and then they came back towards the end. So you've got to try and fashion a performance out of all of those three, taking all the good bits. And I think if you, like I said in the previous one, if you could take the last 20 minutes of the game against Blackpool, which is everything that I want to see in a Luton side, which is direct, fast, pacey, attacking, creating chances. That's the part of the game that I think that this team needs to expand on. I mean, I think we also need to remember that it's only 2 games into the change of formation and trying to get that to work. I think going into the Doncaster and Blackpool games, we would have been firmly set on who we wanted as the wingers, for instance, and maybe even the striker. But then injury comes along, and that changes that, and then probably a drop in performance levels also factors into this as well. So, and I think that's where the changes can be made.
Yeah, indeed. That 7-1 home Tonkin we gave them was close to the perfect game, wasn't it? Let's hope we're close to that again on Saturday. The striker is the issue, isn't it? Or it was the issue on Tuesday night. I don't think it worked with Wells in the middle there. I don't necessarily think it went against Wells on Saturday against Doncaster. I thought for the 45 minutes that we played, he was quite lively. And it'll be interesting to see how high up the pitch we are. We'll presumably have most of the ball on Saturday. Therefore, you would think they're going to be deeper. Therefore, we probably haven't got the space to find Wells anyway. So we want someone up front that the ball's going to stick to. So the obvious question is, who is it?
Well, we're told that Jerry Yates will be available after the end of the concussion protocol, and I think that regardless of what we want and what you want out there, I think you probably know the answer is going to be Yates, isn't it? I think what people are calling for, particularly after the Blackpool game, and maybe even for the Blackpool game, that it should have been Nordos, which is quite the turnaround for the guy, because at the beginning of the season, people weren't having him at all, and now he seems to be the answer. But I don't think we found the answer up front, so it has to change for one of them to.
Yeah, there's a stat doing the rounds, isn't there, that I haven't had enough time to look into to give you the context of it, and there will be context of it. But Luton have scored the most goals whilst Nordos has been on the pitch of the 4 strikers that we've got currently in action. And again, the immediate context of that would be Nordos started against Burton, who were the worst team that we've played, and scored the most goals in that game. So there's context to every stat, isn't there? And I've not looked into it. It is right, by the bare numbers, that Luton have scored the most goals whilst Nordos has been on the pitch, 2 more again the other night. So from that point of view, I understand it. On the other side of things, if I'm putting my money on someone to score me a goal for my life, am I picking Nordos or am I picking Yates? Well, of the 2, I'm picking Yates because I know full well he scored 20 in this division, and I don't know for sure that Nordos can score 20 in this division. So there's your quandary that Matt and his coaching staff are going to have to work out. Well, I was going to say over the trip to Stevenage. I hope it's done before then, because they ain't got much time to make any decisions if they do it on the journey, have they? So yeah, I can see both sides of that coin. I can certainly see that Nordos's hold-up play would probably bring other people into play right now. But ultimately, in a game that's likely to be devoid of chances, do you want the more likely, ruthless finisher in Yates to be? And I know you're all screaming at me, well, he hasn't done it in front of goal, and you're absolutely right. But does that mean he never will do it in front of goal, or do we just have to back him until he does do it in front of goal? Again, it's another quandary, isn't it? I probably would go Nordos, but I don't have any problems if I see Yates in the starting lineup.
No, I don't have either way. I think that both of them are going to offer more in the aerial battle, and hopefully Nordas more than Yates. Although he should have scored against Blackpool, and that was from 5 yards out, and he managed to nod it wide. So I think if you're looking at it in terms of probability, then it would be Yates on his experience in this division. And even when he did score those 20-odd goals, I think it was for Blackpool, wasn't it? He didn't start particularly well for them, and they all came later. So that could be a factor as well. And I think that, he's not played in this formation yet. He's been out for those 2 games that they've switched to the 4-2-3-1, where he's the focal point, and maybe that works better for him. Who knows? But my hunch would be that he'll go with Yates for the experience and the nous. Also, on the one hand, you're saying that the numbers there are good for Nordas, but he's still apparently getting used to the division, or he's still new to the English game, and maybe he won't come up in a contest like this will be, which I anticipate be quite ferocious. Will he stand up to that pressure, or will Yates stand up to that pressure more? It further enhances my hunch that they'd go for Yates in that scenario.
Yep, which is fair enough. It's Pierre Gianni, isn't it? Their centre back, who, if you watch the Salford documentaries, he's been prominent in that. He used to play for Salford, and then they bumped him off when they got promoted into League Two, and that's when he becomes Stevenage player. And I think Charlie Good used to be at Brentford as the other centre half, so he's likely to know. It was wood from the trees, isn't he? That guy. Wingers, always a focal point for us, usually because we wanted them forward in a wing-back situation as opposed to defending, but now they're truly out-and-out wingers. Please, God, don't let us change formation. I don't think we're in that vicinity yet, so we'll stick with where we are with a 4-2-3-1. 2 of them. Who are they and which side?
This one's easy, though, really. I think it's Kadea goes on the left, Morris on the right, and Ali comes out, I think, because the other 2, who I would prefer to see them playing, have delivered more results so far, more, in their respective roles. And Kadea's shown that he can do it on the left. He's scored 2 goals. He's in a confident mood. I'm not sure we're seeing that from Ali at the moment. And that could be the spark that he needs to reignite himself and get some more fire in his belly. Or it could be just the fact that you've got to be ruthless in these situations. If you're going to have the players that we've got, and, even with the 11, 12 out, there's still cover for a lot of these positions. You've got to use them. In a game of this magnitude, you've got to go with the higher probability of who's going to perform based on the current output that they've got. And that would be, for me, Kadea and Morris, in the same way that I'm saying it would probably be Yates in a historical perspective.
Yep, they're the 2 for me as well. Ali will come on. That's not to say that he won't play. Ali will come on, but yeah, let's have Kadir and Morris run them ragged. And who knows, Ali against a tiring defence might have a lot more success than Ali against a fresher defence that he's been going up against recently. 1 behind 2 in midfield. Obviously, Saville's the 1 behind the 2. There's no problem with that. Who are the other 2? And this is where the options are.
Yeah,
There are a lot of options for this one. He's got quite a few headaches.
He has. I know what I'd prefer to see.
Go on, go with that before what you expect to see.
I'd put Clark, and I'd get Richards in.
Okay. And what you expect to see?
What I expect to see is Clark will come back in. I mean, he's talked him up already, even in the post-match after Blackpool. So he'll come back in, and I think he'll stick with Nelson.
Clark and Fanny for me in those 2 roles. I just want I just think the physicality you've mentioned is going to be a physical battle. There ain't many that shove Fanny off the ball, is there?
I've completely forgot Fanny, to be honest. So I think that he'd go in. It'd be Clark and Fanny in terms of who would probably go in.
That's not to say that I don't want to see Richards down the line. And to be quite honest, I'll be more than happy to see him for the last 20 minutes in this game as well, particularly if we're looking to go forward and get something out of the game, because I really want to see a lot more of this kid. In fact, is there a formation where we can play 7 in midfield so that we can get all of these talented individuals in? I jest, of course there isn't. But I do like him. I really do like what I've seen. Now, I trust Matt. If he's going to get any position right in this team, it's going to be midfield, isn't it? He spent the best part of 20 years occupying his trade in that centre of midfield, didn't he? So I'll trust his development and his call on Richards. But from what I'm seeing of Richards, and if he then has another good game against Cambridge, presumably he's a banker starter in the trophy on Tuesday night. If he has another good game in that, the calls for him to play against Mansfield are going to get louder and louder and louder. But listen, we'll deal with that another time. But yeah, that's the three I see: Fanny, Clark, Saville. Now
I make you right. I just completely forgot about Fanny. Not that he's done anything wrong. He's picked up some pretty good positions against Blackpool, and he had a fantastic game against Doncaster. So yeah, I make you right.
And those physical attributes that he's got, probably the most physical, dominantly physical midfielder that we've got, isn't he, right now, or fit one at least.
And in terms of the fight we're going to see against Stevenage, or are going to need to see against Stevenage, you're going to need that physicality. So
yeah. And there was one, wasn't there, against Blackpool on Tuesday night, where they were attacking and we just needed someone to stick their foot in, and he came back and just got the ball off the geezer and gave it to Kearley in a sort of no-nonsense manner, really. And I just like everything that I see from Fanny. I'd love to see more goals from him, and I'm sure in time we will do. What is it? Small acorns, big oak trees and things like that. That's where we are, aren't we, with a lot of these midfield players, particularly the younger ones. Back four, obviously a point of concern on Tuesday night, understandably. We haven't got a right back, so we're presuming that it's going to be Christ. Maybe Nigel Longwaite can play there when he is fit. We're not expecting him to be fit for this game, but when he is fit, maybe that's another option just to see if he's any better there than Christ. But hey, that's for down the line. It's more the left side of the defence, though, isn't it, that could change if it changes. I'm not taking Bramall out, are you?
No, I wouldn't. Based on his performance the other day on Tuesday. But again, I think you need some experienced older heads there, some, war horses, some men in for that fight. And I think that he would probably go with Naismith over Bramall.
So you're assuming Ted and Mengi's back to go centre back, because Naismith was centre back the other night, wasn't he?
Yeah, I suppose that is assuming that he's back. That's my fancied formation if he was back, because I think that there was a lot more control in the Doncaster performance when he was there. I have to give him his credit, because he hasn't had a lot, particularly last season. That in that game he showed what he could be. Whether he's recovered from rolling his ankle, who knows? But yeah, if he has recovered, I would imagine that he goes in.
For Bramall with Naismith left back. Yeah, I'm the other way. I'm Bramall left back and Mengi in for Naismith. His form just concerns me. Listen, in no sort of way do I think that he doesn't care and he doesn't love the club and everything. I'd never attribute that with Cal Naismith in either spell. It's clear he got the club the first time round. It's clear he gets it the second time round. But get in the club, don't get the ball from A to B, does it? And a lot of his passes, the ones that are probing at least, I mean, the safe passes are okay, but the probing ones aren't finding their target, and quite often it's putting us on the back foot. And
it depends which performance you base it off. He wasn't doing that in Doncaster. It was simple stuff: win the ball, give it to someone. But I take it from the Blackpool performance, he was trying to rake balls over to the other side of the pitch, and it wasn't coming off at all. And it wasn't coming off for a lot of people, but obviously when you keep trying it doesn't come off. It is noticeable.
And that's probably my expectation of Naismith, because we know how good he is with the ball at his feet, that you expect not perfection, but close to it, because he's a mighty good footballer. We saw it the first time round, didn't we? He had the championship on a sixpence, really, with that particular diag. And it's just not happening right now. That's not to say it won't in the future, but we can't have anyone not on it in this game. If we go into this one with someone not on it, they'll mess all over us, won't they? So if Mengi's back and he's fit and he can play like he did against Doncaster, I'd probably go with him. I wouldn't take Bramall out right now, because if we are playing Kadir down that right-hand side, he's taking the fullback right in. Bramall's going to have, most of the Roaring Meg retail park to himself, let alone that side of the pitch, isn't he? And I really think that, particularly if we've got a tall centre forward as well, I think Bramall attacking from deep, that'll work really, really well, whereas we wouldn't do that with Naismith. The caveat to Naismith was he put a cracking ball in on Tuesday night that just got headed out just before one of the strikers had a tap in. So I suppose it's one of those that you've got 3 men for 2 spots and you're not actually weakening the side, whichever of the combination of the 2 you pick. So that's not a bad position to be in.
No, I suppose the other consideration as well is the third game of the 3-game week, and
Naismith's done the first 2,
yeah,
hasn't he?
exactly. So whether that putting Bramall in freshens things up, and certainly his performance at Blackpool suggests that he's now up to speed, which we were being told he wasn't for a while. So that's a good thing. When you've got those options, I don't think you should be afraid to use them. The thing about the Blackpool game was that it wasn't necessarily down his side of the pitch where the goals came, so there's not an issue on that front. But the way the game changed was all in a midfield and an attacking sense when those players came on, and they took it to the game. So that won't have an effect either if you're taking that viewpoint as well. So you could very easily and comfortably put Bramall in, and I'd have no problem with it.
No, we only have half a squad here, but he's still got some options and some decisions to make, hasn't he? Just for clarity, I don't particularly inhabit this world, but there is a world out there where people are calling for Shea over Kearley. It's not for me, Clive, but
Rarely do teams switch out their goalkeepers today, and there was that one season with Arsenal, but rarely does that happen. I think, listen, that may be how well James Shea is loved by the fans at this club, and that's fair. And also, last time he was in this division, he was the Golden Glove winner. So there's that as well. If Shea ever has to come in, full confidence in him, absolutely. But I think that Keith's the number one, and he'll stay the number one.
Yep, as I say, I don't inhabit that world. Kearley's still very much first choice goalkeeper for me. Did he make a cock up on Tuesday night? Absolutely. Does any of us need to tell him he made a cock up on Tuesday night? No, we don't. You could see from his immediate reaction that he knew that he made a mess up, and that's not going to happen every Saturday. If it does start happening every Saturday, he'll know as well as anyone else that change will eventually happen. But it doesn't happen straight away. He's not a bad keeper overnight. He has still got 5 clean sheets in 9, and or 10, or however many games it is. They're all coming. 10 games, isn't it? 10 games. So he's kept clean sheets in 50% of his games. We can turn a blind eye to the odd error now and again, particularly when the rest of his game, he still punched a lot of corners out the other night, didn't he? Or crosses out and things like that. That weren't happening last season.
And it never felt nervous as well. I felt like he commanded that particular space, even when he was crowded by a lot of people. So that's good. And obviously something that we didn't particularly experience the last 2 years.
And also something that we're probably going to need on Saturday, because, if they're outperforming their XG, then they're scoring from chances that aren't being created as sort of good chances. So you need a good shot stopper, and he is that, isn't he? He showed that with that save at Lincoln and a couple of other saves and things like that, and he's commanding of his box. We're expecting an aerial bombardment, aren't we? So having him in goal will ease some of the pressure on the defence. So yeah, I'm with Jimbo. Kearley's number one, and until mistakes start coming much more regularly than they have, that will remain the case. We've got to go at these with pace, haven't we? Because if they give you an aerial bombardment, I mean, I haven't watched too many Stevenage games, but I know that Aaron Connolly scored against them for Leyton Orient last Saturday, and we know all about him from his time here. He's a nippy little bugger, isn't he? So we got to go at these with pace. We got to get the ball into Saville or Clark or whoever. Get the ball out wide. Go at your man. Whoever is the striker, get to the front post. Get on the end of it. If it's overhit, then it's the winger the other side. And let's get some shots in that way. Let's go at them with pace, because I've got the feeling they don't like it or won't like it.
Yeah, well, that'd be the same for most teams, wouldn't it? That's what you got those players in for, the pace, for that power. We weren't seeing it so much before they managed to get the wingers in to do that, and now they have. We just got to keep doing that and develop that side of the game, because it is, if it clicks, potentially devastating.
every opportunity we can get these wingers in the game, we've got to do it. None of this pumping the ball up to the centre forward. They're going to eat that for meat and drink. Even if it is Nordos up front, they're going to eat that for meat and drink because they're two physically imposing centre halves. And okay, Nordos might win the odd aerial battle or shield the ball well, but we're going to have a lot more joy getting the ball to Morris and Kadir or Ali if it is Ali down that side. So, yeah. Let's go at them with pace and let's have a right old ding-dong at this lot. And as I said in the last podcast, for as bad as we've been for 10 games, we win this game with 3 points behind them. Now, whether they stay in second place, if that were the case, who knows? But if we go into the international break 3 points behind Stevenage and they are second, well, there are worse places to be after 11 games.
I think that a negative result when you've got an international break is the one that's going to really ramp up the pressure all over the shop because you've not got to gain in quick succession to put it right. So,
and then by the time you play Mansfield, you could be in the bottom half of the table because most of the division play next Saturday. And now that we don't, not that Huddersfield was an easy game, even if we were playing it.
Well, yeah, exactly. So you've got to get a positive result, and that could be a draw in the way that we saw it at Blackpool. Although you can't give them a 2-goal head start because the stats say that we're not going to be able to come back on that one. And maybe we used all our luck at Bloomfield Road. But if it was 1-0 and you pinched a point, that would still be a good result. Regardless of how most people feel our elevated levels of expectation and the history of our club and the size of our club against this particular club. In the context of this season, currently, that would still be a good result. A defeat and a bad one wouldn't be.
Yeah, if you go away to any side in any league, forget the size of the clubs and the names of the clubs and everything else. You go away to second place and you come away with a draw. You're generally not too disappointed, are you? And yeah, okay, the sort of pride of being a Luton fan would sort of get a hit from a draw with Stevenage, but all things being equal, it's not the worst result in the world. Third game of the week, Jimbo. How does Stevenage against Luton end?
1-1.
Oh, you bugger. Yeah, no prizes for guessing what my prediction was going to be. Well, I can't go the other way, so we're going to have to add one on to Luton, aren't we? And we'll go 2-1. Luton to win the game. 90th minute winner then will do me. Ding dang do. I don't care who comes off the bench to get it. But that'll be, I was going to go 1-1. It just got that feeling of a tight, drawy kind of game around it, hasn't it? Let's hope we can break the 3-game week hoodoo and get the win.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, you've got to make inroads into all these negative things that have been a bit of a crutch for so long. I don't know the stats on it, but from memory serves, we've not been particularly good across those 3-game weeks.
Yeah, fingers crossed Town could come out on top. 2-1 for me, 1-1 for Jimbo. Get your score predictions in for this one. Slightly less time than you'd normally have for a Saturday game. Blame that blasted midweek trip to Blackpool for that. But there's still enough time for you to get your predictions in. And as always, if you get it right, you'll get a shout out in the review episode, which will be out usual time Monday morning, where we'll have the leaderboard up to date and everything else. I'll do an instant reaction after the game, as I said. If you're not able to locate that, head to the Lutonian.com where there'll be a match report of some kind at some point, and you'll get all the information that you need to know from the game. That is it for this episode of the podcast. Do keep your comments coming, and your support of the podcast is always greatly appreciated. Whether you've watched the podcast or listened to it, we really appreciate you taking the time out to take in this episode. Thanks also to the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. Really, really appreciate your support, guys, particularly this week. We know we've been in the studio a lot more than we really wanted to be, but hey, that rearranged game was rearranged for when it was, wasn't it? And so be it. Thanks also to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music. So until next time, which will be a review of what we hope will be another Bedfordshire beating of Hertfordshire, from Jimbo and myself, everything we've got on Saturday, Police Town, on and off the pitch. Come on, you atters.